Hi everyone, and welcome to Rose Does Business Basics. I hope you're all well tonight, and I hope the weather's a bit kinder to you where you are, because down in Tassie it is freezing. We had a really cold day, the wind was coming off the mountains and it was quite chilly. So each week I'll be bringing you topics related to business, and whether you're a startup or someone that's been in business for a while, some of these hints and tips will help you, whether you just need a helping hand or you just need a bit of a top up with some information. And this week I'm discussing how to promote innovation and change in the workplace. So please feel free at any time to leave some feedback if you'd like to, and it'll help me make my broadcast a little bit better. I'm not sure whether there's a bit of a lag between my voice and my lips, but I'll probably see that back in the replay, so I'm not really sure what's going on there, but we'll see. Anyway, let's get started. And for anyone who's watched my previous broadcast, I'd like to hear from you again. It'd be really great to see what you're thinking and how you think I'm progressing. This is about my fifth one or fourth one. So yeah, I'm trying to improve as I go along, but as we all do. So here we go. So, promoting innovation and change in the workplace. So what is innovation? Well, it is the act of introducing new things or methods into your workplace. And according to R.M. Gantt, the Change Masters of 1983, that was his book, innovation is change for improvement. It is a new idea applied to initiating or improving a product or process, such as delivery method, customer support, promotion, costing, etc. And that is also something from the Concise Macquarie Dictionary as well. So there's input. So the input would be ideas, the process that transform it, and then you get your output, which is supposedly to be a better outcome. So what is change? So it's to substitute another or others for, or exchange for something else. So it's an alteration of the existing state. So your ideas and concepts go in, you make the change, then the innovation is an output or an outcome. So these are the two together. All innovations imply change, but not all change is innovative, since it may not involve new ideas or lead to significant improvements. Why have innovation and change become essential for business survival? Product life cycle, which is sales of a particular product over time, decreasing more products and better products put onto the market quickly. They are increased competition, globalization, end of protectionism equals monopolies, which is like the two supermarkets that we have here. Great consumer expectations, but innovation involves doing something better. So change is not the same as innovation. And anything we can do better gives us the edge in business. So that can give us more than excess sales. Profits are more important. Better product than the competitor, and products gives good value for money. So what are the risk factors of change? Well, there's failure, there's disadvantage to the organisation, and there's resistance, and resistance can come from others within the organisation due to the fear of failure, and can come from your customers or your clients. And loss of control brings new aspects to the organisation, and fear of the unknown from your staff or your customers or your clients, or even yourself. And the benefits of innovation, well, there's survival of the organisation, improved ability to compete, better employee attitude and conditions, and improved processes. So that is your customer service, manufacture, transport, delivery, or data input. So how do we start planning for innovation? Well, by monitoring the environment, the trends, the economy, and customers and clients changing their needs or habits. You can do that with a survey perhaps. Understanding human behaviour, opening up to new ideas and suggestions, or using improvement models and tools like models, timelines, Gantt charts, SWOT analysis. You could adapt a knowing concept to suit the environment. You could try educating, communicating, giving and receiving feedback, negotiating, actioning research, or unfreezing, which means to relax the old rules until change is implemented, and freeze and put into place and use the new rules. So that's a bit like the SOPs that I was discussing a couple of weeks ago. So what is quality? The word quality has different meanings to different people. Each individual judges quality according to their values and needs. It is not easy to define quality, and the best description of good quality I came across by Dr. W.E. Deming. He says that good quality does not necessarily mean high quality. It means a predictable degree of uniformity and dependability at low cost, with a quality suited to the market. And that's out of his book From Out of the Crisis, and that will be found on page 169. So what is process? And I'm not sure if you can actually see that very well, but a process can be defined as the activities which transform input into output. And the input can take the form of your raw materials, your tools, your components, your documents, or your data. The input is usually supplied by a supplier, who can be a vendor, another department or organisation, or another employee. The output is the end product or service resulting from the series of activities which defines the process. The customer client is the user of the output, which can be a client, another department or organisation, or another employee. And this diagram shows a simple process model. So how do we measure a process? A process can be measured by using characteristics of its input, output and process parameters. For example, if we are filling out a sales agreement form, the output characteristics would be measured by the completeness of the form, its correctness and its readability. The process parameters would include the time taken to fill out the form, the environment in which the form is filled out, and the input characteristics would be measured by the layout of the form, the quality of the paper, the training of the person filling out the form. And that sounds like gobbledygook, but it does make a lot of sense if you sit down and really analyse it. So the plan, do, check cycle for continuous improvement was introduced by Walter A. Shewhart as a procedure for carrying out any improvement activity. So when you plan the change required for improvement. Then you carry out the change, preferably on a small scale before making it widespread. Then you check, which monitors the effectiveness of the change and compare results to your objectives, which is the plan. And then you act, so you standardise the changes if the results show improvement or go through the cycle again, which is bit like the standard operating procedures that as I had discussed previously, that you do the plan, do, check, act, so to make sure that you get the processes right. So it's the same principle. So these are the relationship between the plan, do, check, act cycle and the 6-step process improvement cycle is that the best way to describe the relationship is to draw the cycle and include the 6 steps of the process improvement cycle under the appropriate heading. So the plan is that you identify the problem, 2, you locate the possible factors, 3, you analyse the possible major causes, and 4, you do, so you take corrective action, 5, you check and evaluate, and 6, you act and standardise. So the 4 PDCA cycle can go into a 6-step plan. So there are timelines and targets. So are used, and these are used to achieve your goals. Timelines and targets help us plan change by establishing what we want to achieve, how we're going to do it, when we are going to do it, where we want the change or innovation to take place, and who will facilitate the change or innovation. And the major forms of innovation are radical. So radical forms they're extreme, they're immediate, and they're total. So there's no negotiation. There's incremental, and they're gradual, but they're continuous changes. And there's technical ones, there's managerial changes, there's product changes, and process. And process is always the most important of any sort of innovation. And I just gave some examples here of some planning tools. So a SWOT analysis. So strengths and weaknesses we have control over, and our opportunities and threats we don't. So I'm sure most of you would know what a SWOT analysis is if you would have done one for your business. And if you haven't done one, you should. There's a timeline one, so it's a single line representation of when jobs are supposed to be done. So as you can see, the end of lease and sign a new lease, John is supposed to do it in January. And it's just like that. It's very simple. It's just a very simple tool. A Gantt chart is a bit more complex. If you're familiar with Gantt charts, you can see where the milestones are and the timeline. So everything's supposed to be done in February, by the end of February, and the milestone is in April. And each person has their job to do, and everything should be finished by April. And if it's not done, then there's a bit of problems there, because either the process hasn't worked, or there's something's gone awry in the planning. There's a simple milestone where it's goals achieved, so it's a major event or stage that usually identifies what needs to be completed before starting the next stage. So that's pretty simple. Then you've got the critical path analysis and the PERT chart. So the example is an anti-litter project. They're a little bit tiny to fit on the slide. So, and then you incorporate the PERT into the Gantt chart down the bottom. And then you've got action planning. So the plan, do, check. So what, who, and why. So that's a pretty standard type check you can do on a spreadsheet, and you can work out who's doing what. So again, it's what we will do, why we will do it, how will we do it, when will we do it, who will do it, and where will we do it. There are 4 emotional phases of change. There's denial, which change isn't wanted, and refusal to acknowledge that change is needed or necessary. And that's happened to me, and when I've been working in different organisations, that they've been doing something for 10 years and they can't see why it should change, even if it's a process that could be downscaled slightly and have less steps in it. There's resistance, so the organisation puts barriers up and they fight the change. Then there's the exploration stage, which they will consider the change. There is balance for and against the change, and so you need to do a SWOT analysis in the exploration stage. And then there's commitment, and that's the acceptance of the change. So managing major change, and there's some of the issues. So you need to select the team members. So and this is where a change agent comes in, and they're a person or persons, I guess, who act as a catalyst, and that's the thing that speeds up the process, and they take responsibility for managing the change. So to select change agents, it's usually the managers or supervisors. It could be staff and employees, or it could be an outside consultant. And you need to select people that show qualities of of leadership and are enthusiastic, can build rapport, can overcome resistance, can help implement the change, and can inspire others. And you need to include people on both sides of the change. So you need to include those for and against the change. And managing major changes and some of the issues, there's role confusion. Is what am I supposed to be doing? I thought you were responsible for that. And then there's the cynicism. Well, there's nothing wrong with the old way. This is just the flavour of the month. And how many times have you heard that working in small business? Holding on to the past. It was better in the old days. Yes, and that's another one. Commitment of senior management. I'll change when they change. I'll believe it when I see it. And yeah, that happens a lot. And there's a skills and knowledge gap. So I'm not sure how I can do this. I have not been trained to do this. There's apprehension. So where am I going to find the time to do this well? And there's reversal to the past. Oh, I'll stop doing it that 6 weeks ago. Who is responsible for implementing the changes? It's nothing to do with me. But change is the responsibility of everybody. And these are ways that you could overcome resistance through communication. It helps by showing the logic of the change, and it overcomes resistance due to misinformation being given out. Allow participation in the change decisions. It reduces resistance, it leads to commitment and increases change quality. Always give education, training and support. It decreases the fear of new tasks and new skills. Always negotiate. Exchanges something valuable for a lessening in resistance. And there's other methods, is manipulation, which is the use of covert influence attempts. There's co-optation. It enrolls resistance leaders in decision making by the use of inducements. And then there's coercion, presents only negative options to change and by using threats. And I'm not quite sure that I would like any of those ones. Then there's problem solving. So there's reaction patterns and patterns of behaviour. So there's enterprise reaction to change. There's entrepreneurial stage, which is the form of the ideas, then you get started, then you become highly motivated. And then there's the collective stage, where more is needed to keep on track, more ideas are circulating, but they're less motivated. Then there's a formalisation stage. Procedure statements are created, the business end starts, and what's in it for me attitude begins. And then there's the structuring stage, which is will not take risks. There's too many bosses. You need to be motivated. You need to remind staff about innovation and change, and then you need to encourage staff to innovate for their own benefit. So innovation and change can bring back complacency, a defensive attitude, panic, and deciding to decide, basically. So when they're deciding to decide, again you come back to that plan, do, check, act. But you do other things now. You look at the business as a whole and you analyse the problem and look at the problem and then you change it. You analyse the decision, its purpose, alternatives, risks and make it, and then you act. So then you take contingent action. So it's a little bit different than the other PDCA that you did earlier, but this is when you're deciding to decide. And then the impact of change is a common result of some of the types of change. An unresolved conflict between individuals and the enterprise. This generally occurs when individuals lose control that they had over their work and they become passive, dependent and subordinate, but are rebellious but have become rebellious but have no power to make the changes, and develop short-term work horizons and involved in repetitive jobs requiring little of their skills abilities, so there's no creativity. Then there's resolving conflict. And this can highlight problems and the need for solutions. There's a typo there. There you go. It can promote change as parties work at problem resolution, enhance morale and cohesion in dealing with concerns, and stimulate innovation by encouraging new ideas. Excessive conflict can harm productivity. That means there's too much arguing and energy is wasted in dissension and opposition, along with wasting time. Personal responses to change. Is change imposed upon us, so that's something that's forced on us, can lead to anxiety, which is always difficult, defensiveness and fear and resentment. And change imposed by us, so we are imposing change on others, can bring about high spirits and enthusiasm, stimulation and motivation, fun and pride. It is always easier to accept changes if we decide to make them ourselves. If you've ever found that, have you found that with yourselves? I know I have. If I've been asked to do something, I'd rather make the change myself than get someone else to make me do something. Oh. Screens are stuck for some reason. I don't know what's going on here. There we go. Negotiation. Methods for managing change. You need to gain commitment. So you have a joint problem diagnosis and you agree on the goals. And you spread the change without pushing for the change. And institutionalise the change. You develop a shared direction and monitor the outcome, and you promote consensus for new directions and you adjust accordingly. And then you can use these negotiating styles. Competing, accommodating, avoiding, compromising and collaborating. So collaborating, we trust and respect each other, and we can use both our creative energies to find a better solution. And the skills that are required for negotiating change are assertiveness, collaboration, solution designing, confidence building, conflict reduction, stress management and empathising. And the systems for monitoring and evaluating change are reports, so you could use customer surveys, employee satisfaction surveys or industrial disputes. If you've had those in your organisation, you can count what they're about and how long they've lasted and how many there's been. There's another typo, no? Occupational health and safety records, something might need to change in there. Supplier feedback, productivity figures, cost savings, market share changes. All of these things are things for evaluating and monitoring change. And I receive references from these lovely people, and I thank them for allowing me to use their references. And that's all from promoting innovation and change in the workplace. So, I hope you enjoyed that little thing. It was a bit quick, wasn't it? But if you would like to receive a full copy of everything, the ebook, Promote Innovation and Change Within the Workplace, you can go to my website, doesbiz.com and /shop/ and you can find the ebook in there. And that has everything I discussed tonight and a lot more information is in there. So, if there are no questions for this evening, I'll say good night. And again, thank you so much for joining me. It's been my great pleasure to be here tonight. If you want to get any documents from tonight's broadcast, you can find me on Facebook at Rose Does Business Basics and ask to join there. And it's free to join. It's a public group at the moment, and you can watch the replay of this if you wanted to get some clarity on some of the things, or just you've forgotten something and you want to find out a bit more. So the deal is, with the group, the first 100 members will have free lifetime access to all videos and all documents within there, and then after that it will become a private paid group. So be amongst the first 100 people to join, and you can get everything for free. So don't forget, that's Rose Does Business Basics Facebook group, and that's me for tonight, and I will look forward to talking to you next week. And I think next week it is about how to become a better speaker. So I look forward to discussing that with you, and I'll see you again next week. I'm Rose Davidson from doesbiz.com. Good night.